The thing that feels the most unfair when you've survived traumatic times is that even when the abuse wasn't in any way your fault, people stop trusting you. You get abused, and then people don't trust you. And you might think that's just because people are horrible and they don't understand, and sometimes they don't. But when you look a little deeper, there's more than stigma associated with surviving trauma. There are some very real signals that you might be sending. Living through trauma has a way of leaving scars on you that influence your perception, and they can sometimes harm your ability to connect with other people. And as a result, even though it's not your intention at all, and you're not doing big harmful things to break trust, your trauma wounds may be causing you to send signals that tell people that you're not trustworthy. Now, if this has been happening to you, if you've been getting overlooked or passed over or criticized, left out of things, broken up with, it's possible there's an issue with people trusting you, and I can help you with that. I'm Anna Runkle, also known as the Crappy Childhood Fairy, and I teach people how to heal from these subtle and not so subtle effects of abuse and neglect from childhood so that you can feel better and connect better with people and make positive changes in your life. And one positive change you might be ready to make is learning to demonstrate your trustworthiness. The behaviors that might be undermining you and sending the wrong signals, you absolutely can clear those up by becoming aware of them to start with. It might take time to get the hang of these changes and to win the trust from other people, but as soon as you start working on this stuff, you're going to feel more clarity, more integrity, and a growing sense of self-worth. You're going to trust yourself more because you're undermining yourself less. Now, to be clear, what's happening when we're not demonstrating trustworthiness is generally because we're self-undermining. Now, other people notice it more easily than we do, partly because complex trauma can cloud our self-awareness, but partly also because everybody's like that. Everyone notices other people's shortcomings more easily than their own. Now, you don't have to know exactly what's wrong or how you got that way. You might know, you might explore it, but you don't have to do a forensic analysis to move forward with positive changes. You can just set a new high standard for yourself, and a lot of other problems are going to work themselves out, okay? So what are the behaviors that inspire more trust in you? Are you ready? All right, number one is stop blaming. And I don't mean just stop blaming other people or stop blaming yourself. I mean stop blaming altogether. Now, does that mean you never look at who or what is responsible for bad things? No, you can look at that. But I'm saying you should stop telling the story about this happened to you and now this is the terrible result. See what I mean? Stop making an automatic connection between something bad that happened and some shortcoming in your life. Like, you can't get this part of your life together because this thing happened when you were small. Because this isn't necessarily true anymore. Yes, trauma affected us, but it doesn't define us forever. So stop making assumptions about the cause and the effect of your problems. If you want to do this really well, try refraining from labeling people with diagnoses as a fancy way of saying that they abused you or that you find them impossible to deal with. If you want to state that they attacked you or abused you or hurt you or offended you, say that. Be as specific as possible, but labeling them a psychopath or a narcissist or even an alcoholic, even if it's true, can become a giant diversion that allows you to put the problem in a box and still not be able to identify what your problem actually is today. And people sense that. They want to see that you get it. So let's drill down for a minute and apply this. Do you find yourself in a relationship with someone who treats you badly? That's a problem. Do you find yourself broke and alone without a place to sleep tonight? That is a problem. Are you suffering from anxiety or depression and it's getting the better of you? That is a problem. Who's to blame? Is it your fault? Maybe. Is it your parents' fault? Possibly. Is it your partner's fault? Could be. But here's the radical thing I'm telling you. For your healing, it doesn't matter. It does not matter who started the problem. All your power lies in noticing that for you, there is a problem. Whoever is to blame, the problem doesn't care. The problem is sitting there, and 99% of the time, the problem is right here. It's within. The disturbance is within. most of the time. Now, some of you will object and say, but so-and-so is abusive and they are the disturbance. And to that I say, you are an autonomous adult. So the question is, what compels you to be trapped with a person like that? Maybe that's your disturbance. And I know there are sometimes situations where a person truly has no choice but to be trapped with an abuser. But for adults, that's very rare. The disturbance is within. And almost everyone feels tempted to blame other people for their problems. But you know who sees the truth? You know, everyone but us. And sure, sometimes people judge us too harshly. But what do you feel like when you meet someone who does that, who doesn't notice their own role in problems and instead keeps pointing fingers at whoever? Parents, politicians, women, men, the kind of person, that kind of person. How do you feel when people do that? Do you find them trustworthy? Probably not. To trust people, we all look to see if people have a realistic sense of when something is their fault and when it's someone else's fault, and when it's no one's fault for that matter. And that leads into the second thing that can hurt people's trust in you, and it's the opposite of blaming, and it's when you gloss something over that's really bad. So just to create an example, think of someone who crashes their car and says, oh yeah, by the way, I totaled my car. And you're like, wait, what? What happened? Was anyone hurt? And they wave you off like it was no big deal. Now, does that make them seem strong to you? No, it makes them seem out of touch with reality. Maybe like they're hiding something, or maybe like they hit their head or something. Obviously, people don't trust that. Now, I remember once a friend of mine went to the supermarket with me and we were buying things from the bins, you know, those loose candies and nuts and stuff that they sell in bins, and you scoop them into a bag and then you pay by how much it weighs. And my friend mixed a bunch of things in a single bag, some stuff that was $3 a pound, some stuff that was $15 a pound, and it was all mixed up in the same bag, which you can't do because there's no way to weigh and price it fairly once you mix them. And she knew that. And I didn't notice what she was doing quite until we were at the checkout counter together, and the checker asked her, you know, kind of frustrated about it. And my friend said, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realize I had mixed them. I didn't realize they were different prices. But I knew she knew. And I really didn't like being connected to what she was doing by virtue of standing there with her. And the cashier gave her the lower price on all of it because she had to, but she wasn't happy about it. And she told her not to do that in the future. And then once we were outside, my friend actually criticized the cashier for saying that, like she had done something wrong. My friend glossed over what she had done. She was a lovely person, but when she did that, my trust for her went down. Okay, now here's a behavior that undermines trust. And this one I've struggled with, and that's exaggerating. And this can be something really small, like saying politicians always lie, or your partner never listens to you. And it's like, really? They always lie, or they never listen? It's so common to exaggerate like this, but if you want to rebuild trust and earn it from other people, these exaggerated statements just don't help. Instead, what does help is to be specific and to take care to say only things that are true. Now, another behavior that undermines trust is making excuses. Just to give you a simple example, when you arrive 15 minutes late for a meeting, even if the reason was a traffic jam, consider not walking into the room telling the story of the traffic jam. It's an excuse. If you're someone who barely ever walks in late, you may have some trustworthiness built up. It's in the bank, right? But if you've done this more than a time or two, even more than the fact that you're late is making excuses for it. It's undermining people's trust. Now, instead, you can just come in, sit down quickly and say, I'm sorry, I'm late, and then give your full attention. The next thing is, don't gossip. As a general rule, you do not want to say anything bad about anyone who isn't in the room unless there's an important reason. If someone needs to be charged with a crime or something, yes, fine, tell the cops. But if someone is just annoying you, be a trustworthy person and don't risk damaging their reputation, even if they did something wrong and even if you're mad. And I know that gossiping is delicious sometimes. It's so fun and it's hard not to do. But even when a friend is enjoying what you're saying about someone else, on some level, they know that you are someone who would do that and they could be next. They know that too. So it's best just to avoid that kind of talk altogether. You should also avoid expressing contempt. Now, contempt is when you're not just angry, but you think a person or a group is so worthless or beneath you that you feel okay about destroying them with your words. Now, one example of this is basically, well, everyone on Twitter and a lot of them on Facebook. It's an ugly thing. It may get likes from other contemptuous people when you say something contemptuous. People like to agree with their resentments. If they see somebody with the same one, they love to pile on. But isn't that like the worst side of human behavior? And aren't we all feeling that on social media? So I would just suggest that you refrain from getting contemptuous. It's not a quality that's compatible with trustworthiness. So to build trust with someone who you like and respect, a really good thing to do is to listen to people, especially when they're telling you something emotional or from the heart. When they're telling you something that was hard for them or expressing their appreciation, for example, listen to what they're telling you. Let it in. Don't be quick to tell a story that their situation reminds you of. Give your full attention so that you can hear and understand and respond to the heart of what they're trying to communicate. Take your time when you listen. Be genuinely curious. When you do say something, start with something to demonstrate that you're listening or that you understand. I think most of us suffer at times because too few people in our lives really listen to us. So to cultivate friendships with people who listen well, listen to them. When you meet someone who feels really trustworthy, this is something that you can learn from, and you learn it by listening. Now, if you make mistakes, and if you're out there living your life, of course you'll make mistakes, be the right amount of hard on yourself. Does that make sense? Be the right amount of hard on yourself. This means don't beat yourself up when you fall short, but also take time to think through the mistakes that you do make and see what you can learn from them, and apologize when necessary. When you make a mistake or offend someone, an appropriate apology, not a fake one like, "Oh, I'm sorry if you were offended." Nobody wants to hear that. It's not even worth doing. But also, neither should you do groveling apologies like, I'm so sorry, when you don't even know why you're apologizing. When you make a mistake and apologize, it can actually create more trust with the people in your life than if you never made mistakes. And never making mistakes means staying superficial. So get in there, get connected, and start making mistakes. And just be easy with the idea of apologizing. You can do it. Finally, to be trustworthy, always do what you say you will do. If you say, I'll call you, then call the person, even if it's to say you don't have time to talk. And do they have time tomorrow? It's confusing and frustrating and even a little bit humiliating sometimes when other people don't do what they told us they would do. Those are feelings that if you're causing people to feel that, like humiliation, they're not going to want to count on you. So make it safe to count on you. That's how to be a stand-up kind of person. Now, if you like this topic, you might want to check out this video about mending relationships right here, and I will see you very soon.